All right, we are now recording to YouTube, so we are on video. Hi, Mom. All right.
Hi, Mom.
We're going to begin in 5, 4, 3, 2. Greetings, heroes. Welcome to Prepare for Combat episode number 17. This is July 2nd, 2014, and that sounded horrible. Hold on, take two. Hold on. I can't do
Ever
two.
the professional must have epic intro.
The intro's got to go good. The rest can fall apart, but the intro's got to work. All right.
Okay.
Going again. 5, 4, 3, 2. Greetings, heroes. Welcome to Prepare for Combat episode number 17 for July 2nd, 2014. This is Accuzod. And with me this week, we have two of our three wonderful hosts. First up, we've got Jasmine.
Hello, how's it going?
And we've got Ro.
I am not prepared.
Ro is not prepared for podcast.
I am not prepared.
You have had so many expansions to get ready for the Burning Crusade, and the fact that you still aren't prepared is just—it's concerning. It's concerning.
As you'll hear once we get talking about our hero spotlight for the week, you'll find out just why I am not prepared.
And speaking of the Hero Spotlight, our Hero Spotlight guy, Alikaz, could not be with us tonight. He is en route to Nerdtacular. That guy, I hate him so much. I wish I could.
I am jelly. Officially jelly.
Totally jelly. He may make it.
Delicious.
Raspberry. Only one person there gives me the raspberry. He may join us. Anyway. He may join us if he makes it to the internet in time before the end of the show, but we're going to soldier on without him and just kind of see how well we do covering his hero. So, Ro, we'll start with you. How was your week?
In Heroes of the Storm, I have now reached level 23, and I discovered something interesting. Now, I've been playing Heroes of the Storm for a while, and you would think if I've reached level 23, I would have learned this a long time ago. But when you're playing a hero and you have those hero quests and you get, you play 2 games and you get 150,000 XP, you play another 4, you get 300,000, and then there's the 10-game one, which unlocks Hero Tint number 1, right?
Yeah.
So I've never really concerned myself too much with the 10 quest one because it's like tints aren't a huge deal to me. I mean, like, if I get them, I get them, but I'm not going to go out of my way for it. Well, I just recently unlocked the first tint for Lily, which is kind of weird because I actually played Lily quite a bit, it felt like, but I guess more of it was in like co-op and practice and such like that. So I unlocked Hero Tint 1, and at the end of the game, where I unlocked Hero Tint 1, I look at my experience total, and it's like 750,000 experience. I'm like, what? See, I didn't think you got experience for that one. I thought all you did was just get the hero tint because it doesn't say 750,000 experience. So here's the noob in me. It's like now it's like, oh well, 10 games? Heck yeah, I'm all in. So now I want to unlock all the tints just because of the experience.
It is misleading. Yeah, I've done 10 on Lily and 10 on Witch Doctor, and that's what helped me get to level 40. I have beaten heroes, by the way. I can quit now because I got to 40.
Yay! Congratulations.
And that means I need the wipe to come along now so I can do it all over again because I really enjoy that. Yay! Another level.
And the question is, will they give you a head start on gold since you're in going into the wipe at level 40? Because with the last wipe, they did that based on what level you were at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yep, which Jasmine knows because Jasmine, you hit 20, didn't you?
Whatever it was that gave you 30,000 gold. I think it was 20 or 25. Maybe it was 30. I don't know what it was. Whatever gave you 30,000 gold was the one that I did, and I still have that gold. I unlocked Zagara. And I still have something like 25,000 gold just sitting there.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that once you hit 40, the gold kind of stops, and it does. All you get is like 500 per daily quest. But Jasmine, we'll jump over to you. How has your week been?
My week has not been nearly as educational as Ro's week. I appreciate your pro tip. That is excellent. Like I mentioned, I unlocked Zagara. I've actually really enjoyed her playstyle. I find that she is extremely squishy, although she does have the creep that she can spawn, which lets her, scoot out of the way as quickly as possible. But she's very, very squishy, character, and I really like that she does spawn an amazing attack that comes up out of the ground and sort of gives a death hug to the person or people that happen to be within the area that her amazing monster comes out of the ground at. But you have to get really close to the person in order to make that monster happen. And I feel like it's a little bit too close for a character that's that squishy. It really opens me up for someone else's attack to come along and just completely nuke me in like a quarter of a second. So I'm really liking her. I like all of her attacks, but I wish I had a little bit more distance on her ultimate ability.
You know, I find it interesting that you choose that ultimate ability because, yet again, you and I choose different ultimate abilities.
Really?
It's weird. I choose the Nidus Network.
How do you use it? Tell me what about it speaks to you, because I like the idea of being able to just quickly jump back to the base and get health and mana and stuff. Is that what you use it for?
That's the main thing. I put one behind the base, so it's basically, you know, a very quick hearth. And I will. It really depends on the battleground. Like if you are doing Dragonshire, for instance, that ability can become really important if you can set one close to the middle statue, not in real plain sight, and set another one either top or bottom to handle with one of the shrines. It can be really helpful there. Blackhearts, it's not. Blackhearts, I usually take the other ability, but for Dragonshire, it's great. For the mines, it's amazing because you put one in the mines, and you can basically bounce. You can bounce up top, down on the mines, and basically clear all the minions out. I just like the mobility with it. The thing is that they can be targeted, they can be brought down and killed and stuff like that. So it's not perfect. It has its flaws and stuff. And as far as like helping in team battles, the ability you use is probably a lot better. But if you're trying to jump all over the board and use a bit more tactics as far as pushing this place or that place or going for this objective or that objective, that's where the Nidus Network shines.
That's
and
really
of course
interesting.
the quick hearth thing. Yeah.
For very quick thing. I like that. Usually I'm just very drawn to direct damaging what can be my biggest nuke, but I see how you're using that, and I think I might reconsider specifically on Dragonshire. Especially Dragonshire
is where excellent. Dragonshire is where it's really good. The other maps, I mean, it varies. So your mileage will definitely vary. For Blackhearts, it's just not that great.
Yeah, the one time I tried it was Blackhearts, and I agree. I couldn't find a good place to put them.
Well, because there's mercenary camps and stuff like that all over the place, and you could say, yeah, you could set one near the chest. The only problem is that the top chest is within range of the watchtower, so people will see that all the time. And if you put it on the bottom, people usually see it when they're going to turn into balloons, so it's just not really worth it.
Okay, since we're talking about Zagara anyway, I've actually got Zagara in the news. We'll go ahead and jump to it now since we've already covered a good part of it. How do you guys feel about that creep that you lay on the ground, that mold stuff? Do you like that, or is that annoying? Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's just mold all over the ground.
It looks like something that you would find on your bread and then have to throw the entire loaf out and be like, I spent $4 on this bread. This is terrible. Zagara, stop grocery shopping. But I like it, but I think it needs to be tweaked. It's an interesting mechanic, but it spreads kind of slowly unless you take the talent that makes it spread faster. I feel like personally I am kind of boxed a bit into a corner, like I absolutely need to take that talent or else I'm going to feel like my creep is just not creeping. It's not creeping as fast as I want it to creep. And so I feel like a bit boxed into a corner. I'd like to see a little bit tweaking on either how fast it spreads, how wide it spreads, or what that particular talent does. I don't know, maybe I'm not 100% into it, but I don't hate it. That's a really pathetic response to it, but kind of.
Well, and you know what? I totally agree with you, and I think the reason why it feels weak or underpowered is we have to keep in mind that when you look at the hero description for Zagara, the whole thing with the creep and stuff is basically the hero trait, right? It's every hero has its own trait, and the traits are supposed to be little bonuses that give you a bit of an edge, but they're never supposed to really feel like necessarily super character defining or super overpowered. It's kind of one of those things where I think if the creep tumor was your QW or E ability, it would have they would obviously tune it up to have a far more significant impact on your speed or regeneration or stuff. But as being just a hero trait, they're kind of intentionally keeping its benefit fairly mild.
I think a lot of my reaction probably comes from my innate desire not to micromanage things, and I feel like the creep is having to micromanage the creep, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It just doesn't fit with my playstyle as much. It feels like an extra thing that I need to make sure that I'm micromanaging while I'm doing the rest of my Zagaraing. I don't think it necessarily needs to be taken out. It just might not be my particular draw to Zagara.
Would you be interested in a trait like, say, one of your talents that you could pick up? Would you be interested in a talent that caused Zagara to generate creep wherever she went? So basically, she would always essentially be under the benefit of creep, and if she stayed in one place for a long enough time, then the stuff that she's dropping would benefit from it too.
I think that would be really interesting. I would enjoy
awesome.
sort of like a snail, like a slug, just sort of leave behind my disgusting creep as I scoot along. That would be so much fun. I would love that.
I have to admit, the one thing about the creep I actually really like, because again, I'm like you guys, I don't really grasp the mechanic of it. I had one game where I actually focused and took every talent to make the creep as good as it possibly could be, and I was just like, I don't get what it's getting for me, but I love the fact that you can tell I was there.
I was here.
You left your mark.
Exactly. It's covered in just gunk all over the place. Yep, Zagara was here.
I left my mold.
Exactly. Silly thing, but I love it. I do love so I think the idea of just making it automatically spread out from you, however, whenever you're moving, wherever you go, that would definitely be a winner idea. So, Ro, if you would talk to your contacts at Blizzard and get them to switch that around, please.
Maybe a reduction in the movement speed so it isn't exactly as overpowered as it could be.
Yeah, I could like if you're running real fast, it's just like a slime trail.
Yeah.
Stop and sit, then it begins to grow and expand. So, okay, so with that, let's go ahead and jump into this week's news. All right, the free heroes this week are ETC, Raynor, Tychus, Tyrael, Uther, and at level 7 you unlock Abathur. So that's our free heroes this week coverage. And I just want to mention about this one, I actually broke down and tried Abathur. I tried one game, and I was so bad the other players in my team asked me to uninstall the game.
Well, that just sounds like the players, not necessarily.
It was. They were, and the sad thing was, it wasn't like they were really caustic or foul-mouthed. They're like, "Yeah, you really don't know how to play that. You should uninstall." Like trying to be helpful.
That's so kind of that's so really rude.
Yeah, I just
Abathur. I think Abathur is one of those characters where you really want to play some games in practice mode because it feels like he has a very steep learning curve.
Yeah, I agree, because I didn't understand. I mean, I got the concept, okay, I'm going to infect this person and become this little Abathur balloon over their head and, shoot spikes at people, but the spikes didn't really do a lot of damage. I didn't feel like I was helping at all. So something I just had to learn. So anyway, that's our free heroes for this week. So with that, let's move on to the big news of the week, which was that the day after we mentioned that a new patch was coming out, a new patch came out. Woo. So I think it was last Wednesday, actually, June 25th.
And now that's why we're recording on Wednesdays, so that never happens again. Watch them release on Thursdays now.
Exactly. So along the patch, there were a lot of changes. We're going to cover some of the highlights. Of course, the big one was they released a new character, Zagara. I think we've probably covered Zagara, unless anybody else has anything else they want to cover, other than that she's cool.
She's a lot of fun.
Yes.
All right, then the next, actually the really big thing, the one thing everybody's been asking for over and over, they gave us the ability to mute players and report players. So let me ask, how many times have you guys used those features?
Jasmine, go ahead.
Oh, I've honestly not that much. I have played, I've really, honestly, since I've had so many versus, I've pretty much stayed out of versus because I don't really enjoy the environment so much. I've done a lot of co-op. I haven't had occasion to mute or report anybody yet this week, and I'm wondering if maybe perhaps the fact that you can now do that might be a slight deterrent towards people who would otherwise want to spew some nasty, nasty crap in your general chat. What I did do is I did check it out to make sure that I could, and all you have to do is hit that tab button, and instead of, they reworked the tab screen, right? So instead of you holding down tab to see everything, you hit the tab button, it brings up the screen, and you need to hit it again to make that screen go away, which means that you can hit that button, and then you'll see the people on your team and on the other team, and you have the option to block all communication with them, is what it says when you mouse over the button. So all you have to do is click that, and then you'll have blocked all communication with them.
Now, I've noticed, because, and, as you know, I've got a pretty thick skin. I tend to ignore and pretty much laugh at some of those people in the game, because I'm the kind of person who realizes somebody's bad-mouthing me, it's a reflection on them, not me. And just
yeah, you don't mind looking at it.
Yeah, it just cracks me up. But I have noticed a very marked decrease in the amount of caustic players. I did get the chance to mute one person, and not really that he was being overly caustic, at least not by my standards. But I was like, yeah, he's annoying. Let me see if I can mute him. Oh, yeah, it works. So I muted him. Yay. And they actually come up in a blocked list. You actually can see the list of all the people you've blocked in case you mute somebody by mistake or maybe they apologize. I don't think people actually do that.
And I have a theory. I have a theory to why you're seeing that go down, and I've actually seen less people have that kind of attitude and behavior myself as well. Now that those tools are a bit easier to use and you're able to do that stuff, let's keep in mind Blizzard's tracking everything that's being done, right? And they're also looking out for people that are being toxic when playing the game. They can probably track and see, okay, this player has been muted or blocked by people X number of times. We need to keep an eye on this player.
I would love it if they came out and said that they were watching that, and that if you get banned or muted X amount of times, that, hey guys, we're watching. That would be super awesome.
Yeah, but I've also noticed it too, Zod. I played probably about, in the past week, roughly a dozen games, and I can only really think of one where I came close to using the feature but didn't, just because it was like one or two lines that someone said, and I was just like, well, yeah, you're stupid. But the other things were fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your standard normal idiot ratio. You know, 1 every 10 games, there's an idiot. So. Okay.
It's not a bad ratio. 1 every 10 games. That'd be a pretty great ratio, actually.
Compared to League, yeah.
Yo, 1 every 10 minutes is League. Yeah, so those are in the game now. Love them. The other thing added, or one of the other things added, was the concept of kill streaks, which appears on your character as your name portrait above your head starts lighting up and kind of has this blue flame, which is visually kind of pretty. I don't really get what they're doing. Do either one of you guys, can you explain that to me?
Yes.
Okay.
See, when you build up a kill streak and that flame appears over your character, you get an increased ability to make 3-point baskets. They just haven't put in the announcer voice saying, "He's on fire!" and anybody who's never played NBA Jam has no idea what I'm talking about.
I'm sure my fiance would find this hilarious. I will tell him later. He'll be very entertained.
But it's one of those things where, I mean, it's kind of a cool little neat nifty feature and such, but it doesn't... It's just kind of a cosmetic thing. It's like, oh, this person's really good. It doesn't have necessarily any impact on your experience gain or abilities or anything like that. But what it does do is it kind of alerts the other team and showing, hey, you better watch out for this person. So in a way, I feel it's kind of weird because it almost feels like you're punishing someone for being so good at taking out other people, you know?
You mean by highlighting the fact that they're good?
Yeah. Like, oh, here's where you should put your bullseye on.
I didn't think of that. Okay, I thought it was more like celebrating how good you were. All right.
I had not thought of it from that perspective before. I too was like, oh, look at how cool I am. Look at this blue fire. I'm so amazing. Oh, well, now I'm dead.
All right. Also, this patch, they put out a large number of talent changes all across the board. There were buffs and nerfs everywhere. There's no way we can cover them all, but I did want to point out one, at least, that I found. I'll let you guys see if you mentioned any or found any either, but I noticed Lily feels like she got a serious nerf. Doesn't feel as overpowered as I'm used to her being. I went and played a few matches. I just didn't feel like I was, healing everyone like crazy as like before. I don't know if you guys have noticed that with Lily, or if you have any other major talent changes you wanted to point out.
I will say that all of the changes made to Illidan on the week that we're covering Illidan are devastating. I mean, all those name changes, I couldn't deal with the name changes. I'm kind of joking a bit here.
How can you go on?
I don't know. But as far as Lily goes, it's funny that you say that, because in every game that I played in which the other team had a Lily, I swear, without fail, someone complained about Lily. It didn't matter if Lily was nerfed. If Lily was on the other team, someone's like, "Stupid Lily, man, that Lily's so good. Lily needs to be nerfed," even though she was considerably nerfed. And every game that I had played Lily this past week, when I was playing Lily, I won. So, I mean, yes, Lily has been nerfed, but she definitely isn't underpowered yet.
Okay, quick sidetrack since you got that path. Name the top 3 heroes you see everybody complain about every game when they're playing against them. So you got Lily. Who else?
Lily, no longer Murky. Hammer. I see people complain about Hammer. And
I would have kept Murky in the list because that's one I always hear complaints about.
I haven't seen people playing Murky a whole lot, but Lily, Hammer, and those are the only real 2 that I've been seeing lately. Any other ones don't really pop to mind.
Okay. Sorry, totally sidetracked there.
It's okay.
Honestly, still Illidan. I still see a lot of, this Illidan, so, oh my god, it's Illidan, which is obviously very heavily dependent on how good the player is. But I feel like even if the player is bad, you still hear a lot of, it was totally, if only we had an Illidan, we would have been able, no, calm down. And
we would have totally won if we had an Illidan.
If we only had Illidan, we would have done amazing. We could have taken the whole game down. I do see Lily complaints. And those are really the top 2. I'm trying to think of a third one that gets heavy complaints. I still see complaints about Stitches, but that's just like one particular person who will get eaten a lot and then be like, Stitches is so overpowered. No, you're just standing there. Like, this is your fault. It's fine. So I'd say those are my 3.
Okay. All right, and just to close out the talent changes, Jasmine, did you have notice any buffs or nerfs you wanted to comment on?
Nothing I particularly stood out to me. I did look over the buffs and the nerfs, and I went, yes, okay, this is beta. Yes, all right, you're making changes. Okay, what's the next patch? It's all pretty par for the course, in my opinion.
Gotcha. All right, and also included in the patch was a major change. When I say major, maybe major is too strong a word. Maybe a medium to minor change in the user interface. They have, of course, like we said, the kill streak counter. Another one I noticed that I don't know, maybe he'd been there all the time and I'm just an idiot and didn't notice it until now, but down by your character portrait there's now a skull, and there's a little counter that counts up like little bitty skulls that I think are tracking the number of heroes you've killed or been involved with killing.
Yes.
I've never seen it explained anywhere. I don't know what that is. That is new, okay.
Yeah.
You guys know what that is? Can you explain that to me? Because I don't know what it is.
I believe it's tied into the whole kill streak thing, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I know it's cool, and I like when I get a lot of those little skulls, so I keep trying to get them. But,
you feel very rad when you do.
I do. I'm like, look at all the skulls. I must be doing very well. We also mentioned the tab. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that the change that kind of sticks out to me the most with the UI is the mini-map changes, and, you know, the event notification, most of it now being put above the mini-map and not as many things being right in front of your face. I thought I wasn't going to like that change as much when I heard how they were going to do it, but I notice I'm still paying attention to it when it appears at the mini-map, so it's actually all right to me. I thought I was going to be a little irritated that I didn't see it right in front of my face, but I'm still noticing it in my peripheral vision, so I think it's a good change.
I have to agree. I love the UI overhaul right now. I am really super in love with the fact that I don't feel like my entire screen is taken up by my talent choices anymore. That was a big gripe that I had before. It was like, oh, well, there's a quarter of my screen gone until I click on this thing. That's great. But now it's just it's still very noticeable. I have yet to have a problem noticing it because not only do we have the arrow that points down and goes, hey, you should pick a talent point. If you consider picking a talent point, there's a talent point over here. Maybe you should pick one. You also have where your name is when you're clicking around and you're focusing on your character. Right under your name, it will tell you that you have a talent point. It's a talent available or point available. I think it's talent available.
New talent available, yes.
New talent available. There you go. And then you can go and click on it. And that way, even if you are paying complete attention to the team fight that you are in and you aren't noticing around your screen, you have that tunnel vision, it's right there and it's really not annoying to me. It's reminding me without making me want to get it off of my screen ASAP, and I love that.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect change. It's something that I complained about when I first played the game at BlizzCon. I actually, a couple of devs walked by and I said, I need to have a better way of knowing when talents are available, and what they've done at this point feels like the perfect spot with it.
Yes. I do love the talents. I also love, now they mentioned that when you're staying with your character, they made it so your own health bar is yellow, not green like everybody else in your team. That is so helpful in a team fight.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised by how much that helped me figure out where I am. I haven't played a ton of MOBAs. I haven't played a ton of games where you have very small your particular character to keep track of, and I actually found that one of the steepest learning curves for me personally playing a lot of heroes has been making sure that I am able to focus on my own health and where I am in the team fight, and out of nowhere there's this change that makes it so I always know where I am. It has been so helpful. Thank you for bringing that up. That's one of my favorite changes in this patch.
Definitely. Okay, now how about downsides? Have you guys noticed anything you don't like about the UI changes?
No.
I have one.
Personally, I haven't.
I'm actually really surprised. I can't think of a single one. What's the one that you don't like?
Actually, it's not a UI change, it's a sound change. They changed the sounds in the game, so things like a merc camp capture used to be very, very obvious. So you stole a merc camp, now it's kind of a little ding. I'm like, what was that? I'm looking on the map. What was that? Oh, I see we have a little blue dot over there. I guess we got merc camps. It just seemed like a lot of the audio cues, which I guess I rely really heavily on to know what's going on in the game, so I can focus on what I'm looking at. I can hear that we got a merc camp. Now I'm not catching them anymore because they're so subtle. But
is there possibly a way to adjust that in the settings? Have you looked at that?
Maybe. I have to check. But
I feel you. Hadn't really dawned on me as a thing I particularly dislike, but now that we're talking about it, hasn't really made me angry while I've been playing or stood out to me enough not to play, but I have noticed that I have actually been missing when we're catching things like merc camps and when we have things that we need to be doing or things that we have gotten. It honestly has gone over my head a lot more often.
Yeah, and I can see why. I mean, before it was overly noticeable. I can definitely see why they wanted to tune it back a little bit, but maybe a little far for my taste. But no, not a complaint. I don't hate it. Agree. Now that I'm used to it, I'm catching it now. I know I'm listening for that sound. But that was the only downside. Everything else I think has been amazing. I think they've all been great changes. And last one on the UI change, can you think of anything they still need to do? I personally can't.
Yes, I can. When you log in and you have that gigantic window of people looking for a party that you don't care about because you don't want to invite them to your party and you aren't looking for a party and it's still there and it's super in your face. Just let me minimize that and have it be at the bottom. Have it be a button. Have it be a button, and on that button there can be a number of how many people are currently looking for a party, and then you can click on that, and then you can see that number of people and what their party desires are. Because it feels super intrusive as an aspect of the game that not 100% of the people are going to be using, but 100% of the people have to see when they log in.
I have to agree with that one. It's large enough to be. I could even see leaving it open but taking it down maybe a quarter of the size, much smaller, but the button would make more sense. But definitely agree with that one. All right, so last thing about the patches, they also came out with a number of experience changes. I know we talked about some of them last week, at least the plans for some, but Ro, I think you had some ideas on this one?
Well, I mean, I just wanted to give my feedback and my impressions from what I've seen since the changes, and I have definitely been involved in a number of games that are ending much faster than before. I would say the average time it takes to play a game has gone down a few minutes, because there are certain games where one team's going to take a 2 to 3 level lead, and it takes somewhere around 12, 14 minutes, and that game is done because the other team isn't working together. You can tell there's not a whole lot of teamwork going on, and I don't think this is a bad thing. I think the games being just a little bit shorter now than they were prior to the patch is a good thing. I think promoting teamwork is definitely a plus for this game. And so far, I'm actually enjoying it, because when I get into a game and if I'm with a group of people that just aren't going to work together and aren't going to get along, and it looks like things are going to fall apart, that's fine, that's cool, that's a few less minutes of my life that I'm going to have wasted on that game, and I'll be able to hop into another one.
Absolutely agree. I don't mind losing, I just like to lose quickly.
Absolutely, 100%. That was one of the main things that drew me to Heroes, was the fact that I was able to go through a game quickly, because even if it's a losing game, even if it's a game where everybody is being super pissy, you know you don't have to spend the next 45 minutes with these people and suffering through a long, drawn-out loss. I like the faster games.
Awesome. Okay, so that is a quick recap of the patch that came out last week. We'll jump on to the last. I guess it's kind of sort of part of the patch, but they also made a separate specific announcement. Blizzard opened up the alpha to a larger group of sorry, brain just totally shut off there. To the international. I couldn't think of the word international. They opened up the game to international players that are now playing on regional servers. So instead of somebody overseas who happens to have a U.S. account getting in and playing the U.S., they've now opened it up to people outside of the United States. And I have to admit, I've seen a marked increase in the number of people in the game. Like shortly before we went on the air tonight, on a Wednesday night, there's typically 800, 900 maybe. I saw 3,000 in the game. So I was really impressed by that. Have you guys noticed any change in the number of players? Or?
I'm going to be very professional and check the number of players right now while we're recording.
Oh, super professional. I will be unprofessional and speculate while you do that. So I actually, what I've noticed in a practical experience sense is that when I have joined co-op, I have gotten full co-op groups again. That is a thing that's actually happening to me again, and I'm really enjoying it. It makes it a lot more interesting to me logging in, knowing I actually have the option between playing co-op and versus, and not just versus or Jasmine plays with one other person, a bunch of bots.
35-29.
Right. There you go.
Definitely made him. Now I have to admit, I still know a few people. Okay, I know several people who are in the United States who have not gotten their alpha invites. So very, very glad to see the international players getting in. Love the additional numbers. But come on, Blizzard, more people want in. More people want in. So you got to give them.
A lot of people have gotten in.
We're going to be in the beta before BlizzCon. I really feel we are.
Yeah, I hope so. Like I said, I think you're the one who said launch at BlizzCon. I think that was your vote originally.
I think they're going to say they're going to not give a date, but they're going to give a quarter window plan. Like they're going to say our plan is for Heroes to launch in the second quarter of 2018.
Okay, so you expect an announcement?
Yeah.
At BlizzCon. Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right. So we'll move on. And the last bit of news, which really isn't a lot to discuss about, I just wanted to mention it for people who may not have noticed. Dustin Browder put out earlier today, about 6-7 hours ago, so about half a day ago, a 5-minute video that kind of explains the talent system. It's all up to date with the most recent version of the UI, so you can see the talent changes if you're not in the game itself. And it kind of walks a new player through the ABCs of the whole how to pick talents based on your team, how to pick talents based on what the other team's throwing at you. It's a good primer on picking talents, and we'll have a link to that video in the show notes.
It was a good description. It was a really good basic thing to start from, because I know especially for Heroes itself, there are a lot of players in Heroes who have never touched a MOBA before, because it's a Blizzard title, and that attracts people that just like Blizzard titles. So I think this is a very, very, very good primer for people that might be struggling with or just want more information about starting out in a MOBA, and particularly Blizzard's MOBA.
And I've got to say, having watched the video myself, I've got a far better understanding for how Muradin's abilities and talents really work well with each other, and when you would choose one over the other. And having watched this video, it made me, wonder, like, hey, let's see this for all the heroes. I mean, especially like if you have a hero week, how they do Zagara week, Murky week, and such like that. That would be the perfect time to make one of these, and they could do like even a shorter version of the video since they've explained what talents are now. They can just kind of get to the nitty gritty and do like a 3-minute primer on here's one way you can play this character, here's another way you can play this character. Now, of course, this is kind of like something that we're doing on the show here with a Hero Spotlight, but having it would be interesting to see how the dev team is trying to design these characters and how they feel there are different builds for the characters, and then see if people follow along with that or if they try something completely different. But I want to see more stuff like this for different characters.
I like what you're saying, because I'm interested in not only what Blizzard has to say about this, what Blizzard's intentions are necessarily behind the character, but I think that you made a really good point where this is kind of like what we're doing here. I think that there is a market for guide videos if somebody out there really likes making videos, really high quality, something at the production level of what we saw from Blizzard for each character, kind of going through in that very informative, very much like I don't want to say Heroes for Dummies, but it's like you're talking to someone in that video. The voice is very much talking to someone who is just trying to figure out the game. And I think that there isn't a whole lot out there for someone who is just trying to figure out the game. There's a lot of more advanced guides. You can Google around and find a lot of text guides to how to play this character, but they might assume a level of base knowledge that just isn't there for Heroes of the Storm players, because there's so many brand new players. I think there's maybe someone out there will take the reins and do this. I would love to watch some more videos like this.
Yeah, Force, the resource spotlight from last week, he's actually starting to do that, and I'm hoping we see more people do that as well.
Oh, good.
Because there's definitely a lot of room to cover.
Awesome, yeah, and if people listening to this decide to do that, let us know at podcast@prepareforcombat.net, and we'd be happy to point people in your direction. All right, so for that, let's jump over to this week's Resource Spotlight, and Ro, this is your deal, so take it away.
Yep, so the Resource Spotlight for this week is another video cast for Heroes of the Storm called Eye of the Storm, and that can be found at youtube.com/thesmokinggamer. That's a channel that's run by Pride. You might recognize that name. He's a guy who is involved in a podcast called But Wait, There's Lore, which is a WoW lore podcast.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's such a good title.
It is. He's been doing that for a few years now, which is a lore podcast on World of Warcraft characters and such. And the funny thing about that is he's actually taken that lore concept and is doing a second show that's Heroes of the Storm related called Lore of the Storm. So there's Eye of the Storm, which is kind of your basic Heroes videocast podcast thing, and then Lore of the Storm are these short little videos on his YouTube channel which explains the lore behind a character. So if you're someone who's a Warcraft fan and you haven't played a lick of Diablo or StarCraft and you want to know, okay, so why is Zagara so special anyhow? That's what these Lore of the Storm videos are going to do for you. A bit more explanation on the background of the character beyond just what you get in that little description in the game. So it's definitely worth checking out. Again, that's at youtube.com/thesmokinggamer.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I think I played StarCraft for about 10 minutes and then realized I really don't like those kind of resource building games where you're just working by yourself building. And I was like, nope, not for me. So I really don't know much of the story behind StarCraft. So all that would be great to catch up on, because I love the characters and heroes. All right. All right, so with that, we'll move on to Hero Spotlight, and I'm going to make a motion, given that Alikaz was unable to join us, and this is his thing he loves to do. I'm going to make the motion. We're going to pass on this week's Hero Spotlight.
Are we going to table it or just put it to the side?
I want to hear your stories. No, I want to hear Rose stories.
All right, we'll have time for a Rose story on Illidan. Illidan is our choice. Right. So go ahead and give a Rose story.
So whether we try covering Illidan at a later time remains to be seen, but all I will say, guys, is I played Illidan for 3 games, and in 3 games I realized that I am not prepared to play an assassin character like Illidan. Illidan is so squishy. Here's the thing. One of the things that I've learned when playing this game is most of the time, you don't want to chase people unless you're Illidan. And I'm so used to not chasing after people, holding back, and not getting lured into a trap that I found that when I was playing Illidan, someone who wants to chase, I was sucking at chasing. I was terrible at ambushing. I didn't understand exactly when to take those right opportunities and such, and I just got frustrated to the point where it's like, well, the heck with this, I'm going to go kill some minions because I don't know how to take down people and, take opportunity of that. So I try to take down some minions and such, and next thing I know, someone comes out of the blue and knocks me down. It's like, hey, you're not supposed to do that to Illidan. Illidan's supposed to be awesome. Well, the problem about Illidan is he's very squishy. Until you get Metamorphosis, which is one of his 2 ultimates, he is very, very squishy. And it just wasn't my playstyle. I wish I could give a lot more in-depth expert analysis on Illidan, but I can't because I just suck at him. I'm not prepared to play him.
Oh no, I think we kind of covered him there. Maybe we'll just call that done.
Yeah, I mean, try him out for yourself. You might find if you're the kind of person who likes to, take out a weakened character that's on the run and stuff like that, check out Illidan. Where I'm by no means saying don't play Illidan. He sucks. He's just not the guy for me.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention, since I'm going to call him covered this week, because I'm going to mention his other 2 abilities, the 2 which I think make him so challenging to play, and he's got the ability where he can flip over another character, a hero, or a tower, whatever he's attacking. He'll do a flip over them and then do massive damage, and then you can dash through that person back to the other side again, and he'll do damage while he's dashing through. So you can do this combination of run through somebody, flip over them, run through them, flip over them, and you're just always continuously moving, doing massive damage, which I think if you're the kind of person who can control that, you would be very, very good at Illidan. I find I'm not good enough at knowing exactly where my mouse cursor is, and I'm really always been bad at that. So I'll try to click on somebody to flip over them, and I'll end up clicking on a minion next to them. And I'll go to dash, and for some reason I'll dash in the exact opposite direction. So a few times I've been able to hit it.
Knowing your position and the position of other characters is very important with Illidan. And I think that's one reason why when you mouse over Illidan, when you're attempting to, I think, buy him or select him, it says difficulty, very hard, or hard. Yes. It's one or the other. So, yeah, he's a challenging player to learn.
But I've seen people who get it down, and they are unstoppable.
They are.
He's very, very good. So, I don't know, Jasmine, do you want to throw any comments in on Illidan before we call him done?
He also was not the character for me, and I think that's because I really enjoy long range. I like chasing after characters at low health. That is very much my play style, but I have not found a up close stabby character that has particularly spoken to me yet.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and call Illidan done. We will cross him off the list. And looking at the list of heroes that are free this week that we'll all have the opportunity to play even if we don't own them, next week, who do we want to talk about? I'm going to say Tyrael. You guys okay with Tyrael?
Sure.
We haven't recovered Tyrael, have we? I don't think so. And that's one I've actually played a lot of. So that's one I feel, worst case, I can definitely cover if Alakaz isn't prepared for podcast next week as well. Next week's will be Tyrael. So, thanks for adding that to the notes. So I'm going to call that our show for this week. Let's do the social roundabout. Jasmine, where can people find you on the web?
You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/IRLJasmine, and you can go to my website, IRLJasmine.com, and that links to all my other social sites that you might want to find me on.
All right, Ro, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Rowow, spelled RHOWOW, and you can also find me on other great shows such as Flex Mode, All Things Azeroth, and my podcast about other Blizzard game podcasts called Realm Maintenance, which you can find at realm-maintenance.com. just did my 100th episode of Realm Maintenance, and it's a 3-hour-long show. So if you've got a long drive somewhere, like Nerdtacular, like Alakaz is doing, perfect time to listen to this episode 100. Interviewed tons of podcasters for it, and it had a fun time. Gotten a lot of positive feedback about the show already. But yeah, realm-maintenance.com for that.
All right, that is awesome. All right, and of course you can follow me at Accuzod, ACUZOD, or on my website, accuzod.com. So on behalf of Ro and Jasmine, let me say you are now prepared for combat. Woohoo! And I'm stopping the video broadcast. Goodbye, viewers. Love you all.
Bye.